Hey, welcome back to Brighter Rays. This week's study we've been looking at is from Genesis 44, and it was called Repaying Evil for Good. We're only been doing 4 lessons this week, so a little bit longer ones in the middle here, but we're going through the whole chapter of 44. And today's study, I called it Instead of the Boy, because that's what Judah says. So just quoting Judah in this one, pretty simple. All right, so let's look at verses 18 through 34. Now, in these verses, we have Judah's plea on behalf of Benjamin. So let's see what his first argument. What is his argument? What is his case that he's bringing before Joseph to allow Benjamin to go? First, he humbles himself before Joseph, recognizing the position that he has and the position that Joseph has as second to the Pharaoh. So he calls Joseph Lord and says that they are his servants. So he's bowing down. He is admitting who he is. He's recognizing Joseph and Joseph's position. So the first thing he does is he humbles himself. And what he's saying is the proper way that you would address a man in Joseph's position. Second, Judah represents Benjamin as someone that deserves compassion. So he's going to bring Benjamin up and say, Benjamin needs compassion here. You need to have mercy on this man. He says, he was the youngest brother and just calls him a boy. Judah repeatedly calls Benjamin a boy or youth over and over again. But remember that he is close to 30 at this point, so he's not a child. And if you were to flip forward a few pages to chapter 46, you'll find that Benjamin is listed there with his 10 sons that traveled with him into Egypt. Compared to the age of their ancestors, even Jacob, 30 would still be young, that's true. Yet he was a father of 10 boys. So, a little boy he is not. So Judah calling him a boy is meant to really stir pity because of his inexperience. He's just a young guy. He shouldn't be a slave because, he's just a young guy. He's got a lot of life to live. Not only is he the youngest, but he's also the last of his mother's sons. And this is his next point. His brother is dead and his father loves him. The governor should have mercy on Benjamin because he has a unique status in the family, right? He's the last one. Now, did the brothers really believe that Joseph was dead, as Judah says here? Maybe they did. They didn't have proof except they haven't heard from him in a couple of decades. So, they expect a slave to live long. Maybe not. Did they really think he was dead? Probably at this point. As far as they know, he probably was dead. But what is also possible is that they had lied about his death for decades that they just began to believe it themselves. Sometimes people do that. You say a lie so many times over decades, you begin to believe it's true. So they were saying that, he was killed by a wild animal. He's gone. And so that makes sense, right? If you're going to say that over and over again, you might as well just stick with the lie. And maybe eventually you believe it yourself. Oh, well, he must have died out there. We know he didn't die from the wild animal when we said it happened, but it could have happened. Anything could have happened. He was sold into slavery. They might have killed him when he got there. Who knows? Maybe he was a bad slave and they killed him. So they don't know. So either they believe their own lies or they actually did believe that he was dead. The third point that Judah makes is, though not directly here, is that it was Joseph that made Benjamin come to Egypt in the first place. You said, bring him down to me. You said, unless your youngest brother comes, you will not see my father, or you will not see my face. We told our father that we cannot see the man's face unless our youngest brother is with us. So Benjamin was only there because they were obedient to Joseph. Now that should, score some pity points, right? They didn't want to bring Benjamin there, and their father definitely didn't want him there. So that needed to be factored into the situation here. So what he's saying is it was basically your fault that Benjamin's here. So if he has the cup, it's because you invited him to come. You told us to bring him here. So it's really ultimately, in a way they're saying, Judah's saying, it's kind of your fault. So how much that would work in a situation, I mean, I don't know, it's not the best argument, but it is there. It's like, hey, he wouldn't have been here if you wouldn't have done that. So, but he kind of says it without saying it, kind of hints around it, but never really directly says, yeah, it's your fault that he's here. So, now in the fourth argument, Judah argues that if Benjamin were to be enslaved, it would be the death of their aged father. This is his most extensive and really direct argument for leniency here. Judah says that his father loves Benjamin. Jacob said he would die if Benjamin would leave. He repeats what Jacob says, if you take this one also from me, and harm happens to him, you will bring down my gray hairs and evil to Sheol. Judah says that Jacob's life is bound up in the boy's life. They're inseparably linked. So if something happens to a boy, my dad's going to die too. And as soon as he sees that Benjamin is not with him when they go there, he's just going to drop dead. That's it. He's dead. So if not for Benjamin's sake, Joseph needed to have compassion for their father's sake, is what he's saying. So even if you don't care about Benjamin, think of my old dad who's going to die when he sees that Benjamin's not there. So that's his fourth argument. Now, the fifth one, and really the final component of his argument, is this: his pledge of safety. What does he say? He says, your servant became a pledge of safety for the boy to my father, saying, if I do not bring him back to you, then I shall bear the blame before my father all my life. There is a life debt on this boy, and so Judah asks that the governor honor this pledge of safety. Judah would be the substitute for Benjamin. He would take his place so that justice might be done. Judah has pledged his life, and he cannot go back home without his brother. And with that, Judah rests his case for leniency. The brothers bow before Joseph, awaiting his decree. What will the answer be? You can only imagine what is going on in the minds of these brothers as they're waiting for Joseph to hand out his decision. Would he honor Judah? Would Judah be left behind? Judah has kids back home too. Would he be incarcerated there? Would he become a slave in Egypt? Or would Benjamin have to stay? So someone's going to stay, right? That's what they're thinking. Someone's going to stay. It's either Judah or Benjamin. So now they're waiting to hear what this man has to say. What will be the decision? And it's a scary place to be in their lives. Not knowing what's going to happen in the future. Not knowing that what God is doing. They don't understand what God is doing. They don't know the fact that it's Joseph, and Joseph really has their destiny in his hands. But yeah. So next time, our next study, we'll look at what happens. But come back tomorrow, and we'll talk about the lessons that we need to learn from this passage, because there's a lot of good stuff here, especially that going back to the idea of pledge of safety again. We need to talk about that. So come back next time, and we'll talk about it.